Haunted by the forbidden, my cousin exposed a sinister species that should never have existed. Mia's world was turned upside down that night. Alone in her dispatcher office, the faint hum of the radio was disturbed by the frantic voice of a neighbor, seeking help. "There's something in the woods. It's watching us." The storm roared outside, but what rattled her the most were the dark whispers curling like smoke around her thoughts. Just moments earlier, her cousin Alex returned, sunken-eyed and trembling with tales that made her skin crawl. The scratches on his arms told a story of their own eerie, parallel lines glistening like they were dipped in something ghastly. He insisted on creatures, not of folklore, but looming in the shroud of the woods, hidden and hungry. She couldn't dismiss it as madness. Others had noticed the pull of the forest, the way the trees seemed to sway even in still air. The next few nights, her phone lit up with calls that smacked of desperation and horror, a child's laughter in the dead of night, followed by these strange scratching noises. She shuddered, a chill racing down her spine. What if there was truly something sinister lurking in the shadows? As days morphed into nights, Mia saw Alex's obsession grow with reckless intensity. He scoured the internet, spiraling deeper into the legends that had been mere stories to her. Tales of sin, dark bargains struck between the townsfolk and creatures steeped in darkness. And then, Alex vanished. Just like that, with nothing but muffled echoes haunting her dreams. Her determination to find him ignited a flame inside, coupled with a gnawing dread. Was she destined to uncover the truth about the village's forgotten sins? Mia didn't trust her neighbors anymore. Faces once friendly morphed into masks of suspicion and fear. She flicked through old newspapers, the ink blurred with years of hiding secrets. Corruption, one headline screamed. Disappearance of beloved mayor, it echoed. And yet, those same neighbors smiled, waved, tucked their children in at night, never warning them of the evil nestled in the woodland depths. Her nights, spent slicing through whispers of darkness, splintered her mind. She realized, in horror, that betrayal coursed through her blood. A pact forgotten and buried deep, a family legacy entwined with shadows that craved offerings, a tradition long upheld. The suburban street she had once cherished now seemed like a web, spinning tighter and tighter around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The moon hung low, a blood-orange sphere casting an eerie glow over Mia's yard. She felt it before she saw it, the grotesque symbol etched deep into the bark of an old oak where Alex once played. The air thickened, dread scraped against her lungs. She could almost hear it, the soft fabric of fear weaving tighter around her heart. Suddenly, a shadow shifted behind her, cold tendrils brushing against her skin. Mia's breath caught in her throat as the realization crashed down. She wasn't just battling the creatures of myth, it was her own heritage she was grappling with. The final breath caught in her throat, a voice slithered through the dark, beckoning her closer. The truth lay waiting in her own backyard, and she was now part of a narrative she didn't choose. Facing the source of her family's darkness, she stood teetering on the edge of a choice that could either save her or doom her forever. Mia's heart raced as she stepped closer to the oak tree, its grotesque symbol seeming to pulse with a darkness all its own. The air grew thick, almost suffocating, and a foul stench of decay sank into her nose. Shadows danced around her, cruel little figures leering from the corners of her vision, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Each corner of the yard felt like a trap, as if the ground beneath her was alive, waiting for her to make a mistake. She hesitated, her hand hovering above the symbol, hesitation biting at her resolve. What did it mean? Was it connected to the disappearances? To Alex? What could she uncover by touching it? As the night deepened, what had once felt like her safe little town revealed itself as a nest of shadows that a rustle in the bushes made her jump. "Hello?" she called, voice trembling, but only silence replied. She felt the weight of countless eyes watching her, a suffocating pressure that made her skin crawl. The last thread of courage snapped, leaving her feeling more vulnerable than ever. Driven by fear, Mia turned to retreat, but found herself ensnared by the night. The familiar paths morphed into labyrinths of towering darkness. Each step she took felt heavier, a tugging sensation anchoring her to the ground. With every rustle echoing behind her, panic whipped her thoughts into a whirlwind run. Get out. Don't look back. But she couldn't. Curiosity, perhaps foolishness, rooted her in place. Whispers rolled around her like smoke, half-formed words filtering through her mind. The offering must be made. Flashes of Alex's frantic face leaped into her memory. He had known something. What had he discovered? Was she too late to save him? What would these creatures demand from her? She couldn't shake off the feeling of thousands of tiny claws scraping at her skin, as though the forest itself wanted to consume her. Suddenly, a shadow leapt out from behind the trees, and she barely stifled a scream. It wasn't a creature, but a figure cloaked in tattered fabric, its face obscured. The sight sent icy fingers down her spine. The pact has to continue, it hissed, voice gravelly, sending a cascade of dread through her bones. Find it, or lose him forever. Before she could respond, the figure vanished into the night, swallowed by the darkness it emerged from, leaving her gasping in the stifling silence. The urgency washed over her like a wave, spurring her into motion. She stumbled backward, crashing into the trees, scrambling to find the path home. But nothing felt familiar. The woods twisted and curled like a living entity, mocking her desperation. She caught a glimpse of movement, a flash of pale skin, and her heart lurched. "Alex," she called, voice cracking, but only an echo returned. Mia halted, horror blooming in her chest as the silence deepened around her. Were they waiting for her? The whispers grew louder, calling her, beckoning her deeper into the woods. The trees creaked, and a dreadful thought seeped into her mind like poison. What if she was the offering? Taking a shaky breath, she turned back toward the crude symbol at the oak, knowing she had to confront whatever darkness dwelled there if she ever hoped to find Alex. As she approached, something flickered at the edge of her vision, a figure, standing sentinel among the trees, its form half shrouded in the shadows. Was it watching her? Help! The voice slithered through the air, metallic and broken. Mia's blood ran cold. It sounded like Alex. Just past the symbol, something shifted. Perhaps a clue? Perhaps a trap? She stood at the precipice of discovery or doom, and the choice loomed ahead like a dark promise. The silence pressed down on her, tangled with a foreboding that made her skin crawl. She took a step forward, but the woods held their breath, as if time itself had frozen, waiting for her move. And then she realized the shadows weren't just after her. They were hungry for a revelation buried beneath blood and betrayal. Would she dig up the horrors of her lineage, or would she find herself lost to them? The choice was seeping deeper, entwined in the heart of that ancient tree. As the first hungry whispers enveloped her, an agonizing question lingered in the night air. Would the truth set her free, or bind her forever? With her heart pounding, Mia stood at the foot of the ancient oak. The darkness around her felt alive, a breathless entity that pressed against her skin, sending shivers racing through her body. The whispering grew louder, each syllable curling around her like smoke. You must choose, you must offer. She reached toward the engraved symbol, fingertips trembling. The surge of uncertainty coursing through her veins punished her resolve. But something deeper, fear for Alex, demanded action. As she touched the symbol, a jolt of cold ran through her, not just from the night air, but from something far more sinister. The moment her skin connected, vivid images flooded her mind. Alex, pale and frightened, trapped in a cage of thorns that twisted and recoiled with each heartbeat. Mia gasped, pulling her hand back as a strangled scream echoed from deep within the woods. "Alex!" she shouted again. This time desperation tinged her voice, raw and visceral. But the trees only tightened their grip, their gnarled branches looming overhead like grasping hands. Shadows shifted among the underbrush, silhouettes of things that didn't belong in her world. Her breathing grew frantic, the air thickening. "What do you want from me?" Behind her, the figure in tattered fabric reappeared, more defined now under the moon's cold gaze. "You already know," it rasped, eyes glowing with a feral light. "To save him, you must confront your blood." Confusion exploded in Mia, Mia's mind. Blood? What blood were they talking about? Were they referring to her family? The ache of unanswered questions twisted inside her gut. With a flick of its wrist, the figure pointed toward the woods, a silent command that filled her with swirling dread. Reluctantly, against every instinct screaming for her to flee, she stepped deeper into the shadows. Each footfall stirred something that lurked within the trees. The ground beneath felt sticky, as though it had absorbed countless secrets. Then she saw it, a clearing awash in the eerie glow of the moonlight. A stone altar, slick with dark liquid, stood stark against the gloom. Her instincts screeched for her to turn back, but Alex's anguished face loomed in her mind, propelling her forward. The whispers grew louder, indistinguishable shouts clawing at the confines of her sanity. Make your choice. The price must be paid. Mia squinted to see the altar more clearly, recognizing at its base the remnants of faded photographs, the faces eerily familiar. Her family lost to some dark history she had never known. Before she could process the implications, something shifted in the underbrush. A creature, more shadow than form, darted toward her, its eyes glancing like luminescent daggers. Fear seized her heart as it approached, taking on tangible features: an elongated snout, teeth sharp and glistening. This was the true horror of the woods, awakened by her presence, and it wanted her. Feed it, the figure ordered, voice venomous. Offer your blood. Mia stumbled back, breath quickening. No, I want tea. A deep growl emanated from the creature, echoing off the trees, wrapping around her like chains. It was now or never. She would have to face the darkness pulsing in her blood, or let Alex slip away forever. No, she shouted defiantly, but deep down, the confusion wrestled with despair. The whispering crescendoed, her thoughts blending with terror. Suddenly, in that moment of clarity, Mia spotted an object half buried beneath the altar. Was it a weapon? Or the key to uncovering her family's secret buried in blood? Cries of anguish erupted from further within the woods, drawing her attention back to Alex. The faint echoes of his name tethered her to the moment. A decision loomed over her, dark and heavy. The moment had come for revelation, a choice that could bind her to a legacy drenched in shadows. Mia extended her trembling hand, heart racing. What would she unleash in that quiet dark? As she grasped the object, an icy chill hugged her back. The forest fell silent, breathless anticipation hanging thick in the air. What had she just awakened? Would it be salvation or doom? The shadows shifted restlessly, and Mia stood at the threshold of unearthing the truth or plunging into despair. Mia's fingers curled around the object, its surface cold and unyielding against her skin. With a yank, she pulled it free from the earth, revealing a tarnished dagger, its blade glinting ominously in the moonlight. The whispers faded momentarily, replaced by a stillness that left her pulse hammering in her ears. What do you want? She breathed, glancing toward the figure, its eyes still boring into her. Is this what you need? Choose wisely, child, it replied, voice dripping with malice. One life for another. Who will pay the price? Mia's mind raced, torn between the betrayal of her lineage and the desperate need to save Alex. The vision of him, trapped in that cage of thorns, flooded her thoughts. She could not let him suffer. But what price was she willing to pay? As she held the dagger, shadows writhed about her. The creature inched closer, its eyes luminously predatory, hunger glinting in its gaze. With each deep breath, Mia fought down her rising panic, focusing on the blade in her hand. It felt like more than a weapon. It felt like a key to unraveling a dark tapestry of her past. Will it be blood? The figure hissed. Your blood, or perhaps blood of those who came before you. Their sins echo through time. It is yours to cleanse. How do I cleanse it? She asked, her voice strained yet fierce. What do you want me to do? The creature's growl reverberated within her, a tangible chokehold of fear. It wanted blood, yes, but she couldn't trust that what lay ahead would ensure Alex's safety. At this point, nothing about the whispers and shadows resonated with truth. A jolt of anger surged through Mia. You've taken enough from me. I will not sacrifice anyone else. She swung the dagger toward the figure and the creature with a burst of adrenaline. Fleeting doubt wavered within her. Had she truly just threatened the very essence of the terror surrounding her? The figure recoiled, an expression of fury etched into its gaunt features. You think you can walk away unscathed? You already bear the burden of their choice. You are tied to this with every ounce of your being. As if on cue, the wind howled through the trees, blustering with a fierce life of its own, rattling branches like a midwinter storm. The darkness began to swirl around her, closing in, slipping through the gaps between the trees. Shadows pulled at her, tugging her back and forth, as if weighing her worth against that of the blood-bound legacy that cursed her family. Mia tightened her grip on the dagger, her heart thrumming like a war drum in her chest. I will save him, she asserted, her voice a fierce whisper against nature's roar. Whatever that means, come what may. The creature lunged, jaws snapping just inches from her face. In that moment of sheer panic and instinct, she thrust the dagger forward, its tip grazing the creature's snout. An icy scream erupted, mingling with the night air, echoing through the woods. What have you done? The figure hollered. You've bound yourself to the curse. Instantly, the dagger flared with an otherworldly light, illuminating the clearing. Mia stumbled back as the shadows recoiled, the creature's howl piercing through the air. She could feel the oppressive weight of something awakening around her, tinged with both horror and hope that in the chaos. The altar glowed brighter, pulsating with that dark, liquid energy. Mia sensed a void opening behind her, an opportunity, a portal of sorts. But could she save Alex without paying the ultimate toll? Footfalls echoed in the distance, a rush of life, a voice calling her name. It was Alex. It pierced through the dreadful mist, awakening an ember of hope within her heart. Come back, he cried. Desperation colored his tone, the inchoate fear underlying his words feeding the fire within her, every fiber of Mia's being ignited with urgency and terror. What awaited her in that shimmer of light? Was it sanctuary, or a plunge further into nightmare? Time blurred as she took a step toward Alex's call, dagger raised high. Her body trembled with the weight of what lay ahead, both peril and promise intertwined in. The night's chill. What awaited her beyond the altar? And would she be able to face the truth she had just unleashed? As her foot began to move, Mia had to ask herself, would she even recognize her own soul if it was drenched in darkness? The air thickened as Mia edged closer to the altar, each heartbeat a drum echoing betrayal and resolve. The dagger pulsed in her grip, a heartbeat of its own. Alex's voice, full of dread yet desperate hope, surged through her like a lifeline. She couldn't turn back now. They had come too far. Stay where you are, she shouted into the encroaching darkness, her voice shaky but defiant. The shadows flickered at her command, rippling like water stirred by wind. They hungered, waiting for her to make a choice. The wind howled, carrying whispers that intensified, clawing at Mia's mind. You must choose. Mia, one life for another, is his worth yours? The figure behind her, distorted in the light of the altar, loomed like a twisted echo of her own doubts. She steadied herself, remembering the way Alex's eyes sparkled when they laughed together, how they shared dreams of bright tomorrows. No, she hollered, shaking her head violently as if to dislodge the temptations weaving through her thoughts. I will not choose. There must be another way. Foolish girl, the creature taunted, its voice a low growl, rippling through her gut like a slap. You think you can escape the blood for blood oath? You belong to this darkness now. The dagger's glow intensified, casting grotesque shadows as if the knotty trees were straining to escape their origins. Mia took a deep breath, feeling the energy swirling around her. Something was stirring. Beneath her feet, the earth trembled, in sync with her racing heart. Mia? Alex's voice was closer now, desperation tinged with resolve. I'm right here. I can feel you. Please, don't leave me. Hold on, she shouted back, but dread crept into her heart. What could she do? The dagger felt like a weight pressing against her soul. She glanced at it. Could she use it to protect Alex without surrendering herself to that creature's twisted bargain? Then she remembered the altar. It was a source of power that pulsed with old magic, powers bound and buried beneath layers of agony and despair. She placed her palm on the cold stone, drawing strength from the earth itself. Whatever is bound, let it be broken, she cried out, pouring her intentions into the altar. The energy swirled, igniting a brilliance that chased away the creeping shadows. A tremor surged beneath her, seemingly alive as the trees around her shuddered and groaned. The creature hissed, rage palpable in the air as it fought against the light. But Mia was already stepping into the glow. If she could channel it, bend it to her will, she might just save both herself and Alex. Suddenly, the darkness lunged, snapping teeth bearing down on her. Panic drove her instincts as she dodged, rolling back and crouching in the spotlight of the altar. She could feel its chill creeping up her spine, the whispers thundering in a maddening cacophony. "Your soul is mine," the figure screeched, claws outstretched toward her. "No," Mia shouted, and with every ounce of strength, she thrust the dagger into the stone. Light erupted, blinding her for a moment. The echoes ceased, replaced by a soul-shattering silence. She gasped, heart racing as the warmth of the light enveloped her. The shadows recoiled, howling in agony as they twisted away, painted in lamplight hues. She could feel ancient ties snapping, chains breaking. But at what cost? "Mia?" Alex's voice surged through the haze, clear and fierce. "Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm here," she cried, fighting against the darkness that still clawed at her mind. But doubt lingered, haunting her steps. What had she unleashed by binding herself to that altar? As her vision cleared slowly, she turned to the source of Alex's call, her heart leaping with hope. There he stood, but the shadows still surrounded him, writhing as if alive, as if waiting for their moment to strike. "Mia?" he gasped, a tremor in his voice that sent icy spikes down her spine. "What did you do?" "You shouldn't have, Alex. We need to go. Now." Her voice was frantic, urging him to step back, but the shadows coiled tighter. The altar flickered with energy, alive with blood, secrets, and dark. Profound unrest. What had she truly done? The blade had awakened something that could not be put back to sleep. As the shadows drew closer, vines creeping forward once more, Mia realized that the struggle was far from over. And then, like a dark promise unfolding, a low, sinister laugh echoed in the air behind her. "The time has come for choices that can't be undone." What could she do now? With the dagger looming heavy in her grasp, she felt only dread. Would her mistake decide their fates? Mia's heart raced as the unsettling laughter enveloped her, echoing off the trees like a grotesque symphony of madness. The shadows writhed, flicking like flames, drawing closer to Alex as if they were sentient. We need to break the connection," she stammered, gripping the dagger tightly, its warmth now tinged with an ominous chill. "Are you out of your mind?" Alex rasped, his voice edged with fear. "You don't know what that could do." "I have to try?" Mia's words slipped from her lips like a desperate prayer. She felt the potency of the energy coursing through her veins, but it was unsteady, alive with both promise and peril. Before she could act, the darkness twisted, forming into a dense shroud that surrounded them. The ground vibrated beneath Mia's feet as the creature spoke, its voice a hiss that felt like ice scraping against her soul. "What you've awakened is only the beginning, child. You've disturbed powers older than mankind." The air thickened, pressing down on her, squeezing her lungs until she could barely breathe. She could see the shadows shifting, murmuring secrets that chilled her to the bone. "Alex, back away. Keep your eyes on the light," she urged, realizing the explosion of energy still radiated from the altar like a beacon. But Alex was already teetering, held captive by the malevolent dance of shadows. His voice trembled, fear mixing with confusion. "I feel it. They want something from me. It won't let me go." "No," she shouted, nearly sobbing in terror. A crackle of darkness shot past, barely grazing her arm, sending a jolt of icy pain through her. The beast behind them laughed again, haughtily in affirmation of its victory. Summoning her resolve, Mia lifted the dagger, trying to channel the last remnants of the altar's light. "You'll regret this," she yelled, thrusting it into the ground, aiming for the core of that darkness. "I bind you to this place." The light burst forth, shimmering and brilliant, showering its rays across the sinister forms. But instead of retreating, the shadows licked at the brightness, absorbing the very essence of her power. The ground shook violently, a low rumble that matched the fear echoing in her heart. "Mia!" Alex screamed, the shadows surging, wrapping around him like chains of nightmares. She lunged forward but was met by a wall of force, a thick cloud of despair that pushed her back. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled against the pull of dark energy, her mind racing. I'll save you, Alex. Just hold on. Her fingers shook around the hilt of the dagger. If only she understood the power it held. But the altar's magic was changing, twisting into something grotesque. The wind howled around her, the whispers escalating into a chaotic choir of torment. Then came the revelation that shattered her resolve. You cannot break the bond without a sacrifice, Mia? The creature's voice echoed in her mind, slippery and relentless. What will you give up to save your beloved? She froze, the weight of the dagger suddenly feeling impossibly heavier. The shadows slithered closer, their hungry whispers penetrating her heart, echoing the impossible dilemma. The air morphed into a heavy fog of memories, as she recalled her mother's warnings how darkness demanded a toll. I won't let you take him, she cried out, shaking the despair from her thoughts. I'll find another way. But deep down, uncertainty twisted, planting seeds of doubt that flourished like weeds in a blinding flash. A burst of energy exploded outwards, the altar quaking as the two forces clashed. She could feel the pull of desperation clawing at her resolve, the shadows beckoning her with promises of power and freedom. In the moment of chaos, Alex's voice broke through the din, raw and filled with agony. Mia, please, don't let them take me. I'll do anything, just save us. And behind her, the laughter returned, a haunting refrain promising something sinister, and Mia understood that a choice was coming, one that would seal their fates forever. What would she sacrifice? With fear creeping up her spine, she realized time was running out. The dark tendrils twined around her, whispering insidious secrets. Mia felt their grip tightening, threatening to drag her into an unending void. Would she dare delve deeper into the darkness in order to save Alex, or risk everything by remaining bound to the light? Desperation surged within her, and in that moment, she understood. Whatever choice she made, the consequences would haunt them forever. The dagger remained poised, pulsing with raw energy. Either way, the darkness will want its due. What price would she pay? As shadows danced and twisted around them, Mia knew they were on the precipice of something unfathomable, but there would be no turning back. Mia's mind raced as the shadows focused on her with a hungry gleam. Their whispers grew louder, thrumming in her ears, drowning out everything except for the commanding echo of panic. Did they mean to claim her? Or were they drawn only to Alex, enshrouded in their dark embrace? Please, Mia, you have to let me go. Alex's voice echoed, desperation spilling into her heart. I can feel them pulling at me. I can't fight this. No, she screamed back, feeling the sharp sting of fear in her bones. The dagger's warmth shifted to a freezing chill, its power dancing erratically beneath her fingers. If only she could replicate the light that had once surged from the altar. If only she could harness its purity, but there was something wrong. The light was slipping away. Mia's eyes darted toward the altar, the once luminous energy corroding, darkening, twisting into a vile vortex. She could see it now, the darkness consuming everything it touched, turning bright into horror. Sacrifice, the creature's voice echoed, a malignant melody dripping with malice. What will you give? Mia's breath caught in her throat. The weight of the dagger was like a mountain. No, I want tea, she shouted, heart pounding. But deep down, a flicker of doubt ignited. Could she give up everything to save Alex? What if the sacrifice demanded was worse than losing him? The shadows coiled around Alex tighter, constricting like a serpent preparing to strike. His cries echoed in the encroaching darkness, a chilling reminder of how quickly hope could vanish. Choose. The creature hissed, dark tendrils sweeping around her, taunting her with visions of a life never lived, dreams that twisted into nightmares. Your freedom or his? With frantic breaths, Mia glanced at Alex, his eyes wide with fear, his face stricken with anguish. She couldn't let him suffer this way. I'll do it, she blurted out, feeling the very fabric of her soul burn with her words. Just let him go. The laughter of the darkness exploded into a raucous crescendo, no longer mocking but jubilant. So be it. Your sacrifice shall seal your fate in an instant. The shadows released Alex, wrapping tightly around Mia in a freezing grip. The air turned sharp, like a blade at her throat. What would have I done? Panic surged through her as her vision blurred. the world tilting dangerously. The altar erupted as Mia's life force began to siphon away. The dagger slipped from her grip, clattering against the stone ground, a mere whisper of its once considerable power. She clutched her chest, gasping, urging the shadows to release her. Instead, they pulled her deeper, dragging her closer to the gaping maw of darkness now yawning before her. "Alex!" she screamed, but he was lost, fading like chipped paint on an old canvas, his figure dimming into an unrecognizable shape. And then, just as the shadows threatened to swallow her whole, a spark ignited deep within Mia. Her own light, a raw, untamed flicker born from desperation rather than power. "Get away from him!" she howled, lifting her hands. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and for a brief second, she felt the surge of energy shift within her. Was it enough? Did she have the strength to save him? With that flicker of hope, she lunged forward, arms stretching toward Alex. Electricity crackled at her fingertips, a desperate attempt to bridge the widening chasm of darkness separating them. But just as her fingers brushed against his, the creature's laughter echoed again, chilling and triumphant. "You cannot draw substance from nothing. This is only the beginning." Mia's heart sank, her mind screaming in chaos, yet she pressed on. Would that fleeting spark be enough to ignite an inferno? Time slipped away, her breath shallow. Suddenly, the shadows seized her again, pulling her into an abyss. The light flickered within her and then exploded outward, an unrestrained force that jolted through the ground and up into the sky. They were caught in a tempest, now a violent storm of light battling darkness. But would it be enough? As reality twisted and flickered, Mia's heart raced. Shadows clawed at her sanity, stripping her of resolve. If this didn't work, if the darkness prevailed, what fate would await them both? Mia felt the pulse of the dagger resonate against her skin, whispering from the depths of the chaos. The energy was shifting, changing, but could she master it in time? Intense light fought and bled into the void, illuminating everything around them for just a heartbeat. Then, through the blur, she saw Alex, his face a mask of terror. "Mia, you must fight it. Don't let it take you." But the darkness rippled violently, an explosion of fury, rage against her defiance. What would happen next? Would Mia and Alex escape, or were they doomed to be consumed by the shadows? As the veil closed in, the answer remained just out of reach. Mia felt the darkness throb around her like a living thing, pulsating with a hunger that matched the storm inside her. Each breath came sharper, as if the air itself was laced with a noxious blend of dread and despair. The blinding light that had burst from her faded now, retreating, leaving only a faint glow flickering from the dagger that seemed to mock her despair. "Fight!" she shouted, her voice lost in the cacophony of shadows. She didn't feel the power within her anymore. It was buried beneath layers of fear and confusion. She had chosen Alex, but now they were both in peril, and the entity thrived on their shared terror. The shadows coiled tighter around her, the icy grip drawing her towards the edge of an abyss that yawned hungrily, its depths swirling with malevolent whispers, echoes of their own nightmares. Alex's figure flickered within that darkness, but hope dimmed with it. "Mia?" His voice pierced through the obscurity, desperation underscoring his plea. "Hold on to me. Don't let them take you." She extended her hands, reaching for him, but the whispering tendrils of darkness seized her wrists, binding her in a deathly embrace. The interplay of light and shadow danced chaotically, the contrast bewildering, a twisted ballet of horror unfolding around them. "Sacrifice!" The creature's voice rippled through the tempest, an intoxicating promise that reverberated with Mia's every heartbeat. What did it want? Her life? Her soul? She wrestled with the weight of the dagger against her skin, its power now merely a mockery of what it once was. Was she strong enough to overcome? Every ounce of strength she mustered felt like grains of sand slipping through her fingers. "Serve us," the shadows whispered, their voices seductive, laced with dark promises. "In return, we set him free." Mia's heart thundered in her chest, clashing against the ocean of swirling pain and confusion. What if the offer were true? What if— "No," she screamed, the word echoing in the darkness like a battle cry. With every ounce of defiance she could muster, she visualized the light once more, a blinding halo piercing through her thoughts. She had to find it again, the flicker within her, the fire of love and desperation. Suddenly, the remnants of light surged forth, flaring brilliantly as her willpower crystallized into a force that repelled the encroaching shadows. It surged from her core, electrifying and radiant, illuminating the darkness in blinding clarity. "Let him go," Mia roared, her voice steadying as she embraced this newfound power. The shadows recoiled, recoiling from her radiant defiance, swirling violently around her, but unable to breach the barrier she created. Yet the creature's laughter erupted, deep and gut-wrenching, shaking the very fabric of reality around them. "A flicker can never extinguish the dark. You don't know what you're battling." The darkness twisted and writhed, angry and furious, clamoring to snuff out the light. But Mia dug deeper, tapping into the well of love she held for Alex, weaving it through her power as if it were a lifeline. She would not falter. Both light and dark clashed, sending shockwaves pulsing through the ground beneath them. The blaze of her spirit pushed back, illuminating the shadows creeping ever closer. But the very air turned thick with tension, as though both worlds strained against each other in a fierce standoff. An explosion of sound shattered the chaos, forced laughter intertwining with furious screams. As the light burned brighter, Mia's heart raced with a mixture of hope and dread. Would her sacrifice be enough, or was it merely a momentary glow against the enfolding abyss? "Alex," she cried, fear coursing through her veins like a cold sweat as she saw his features twisted in anguish. "I can't lose you. We have to break free." But shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, relentless in their pursuit. Panic gripped her mind, choking her resolve. They were losing time. Just then, the dagger pulsed again, a heartbeat away from oblivion. She looked down and noticed something startling, the darkness recoiling slightly from the weapon, as if recognizing it. Could this be the key? Would this ancient relic hold the answer they so desperately needed? "The dagger!" Alex shouted, his voice cutting through the din. "Mia, use the dagger. It's your only chance." But the shadows moved in, swirling like a tempest, shadows laughing, circling in relentless pursuit. Were they playing with her? Would she have to embrace the darkness instead? In that moment, an overwhelming fear grasped at her throat as she realized the truth. They were just beginning to play. Would the darkness consume them both, or could Mia master the whispering shadows and unleash the dagger's true power? The answer loomed just beyond the turmoil, lurking with predatory anticipation. Mia's heart raced as the shadows twitched, their grip tightening like a vice. The laughter of the entity twisted through the suffocating darkness, chilling her to the bone. She could feel the power of the dagger pulsing in her hands, revealing itself as both an ally and a potential executioner. "Use it, Mia," Alex cried out, his voice strained, barely cutting through the chaos around them. She could see him, caught in the storm, fighting back with a strength that seemed to fade with every passing second. The shadows laughed louder, their voices mixing into an incoherent symphony of despair. They whispered promises of safety, of escape, each one laced with a seduction that made Mia's skin crawl. "You think you can defeat us with courage? You have no idea what lies in the depths of fear," the creature taunted, its voice slithering like a snake through the dark. Suddenly, Mia felt a surge within her, a glimmer of the blazing light she had ignited earlier. "I want to be a pawn," she shouted defiantly. The dagger felt heavier in her grip, yet powerful, like a spark waiting desperately to ignite a fire. With every resolve she could muster, she pulled the dagger up, aiming it at the thickest shadow. "No more," she yelled, the words erupting from deep within her. She plunged it forward, the steel slicing through the cold air like a promise. Light erupted from the dagger, a brilliant beam that illuminated the surrounding darkness. The shadows recoiled, hissing and shrieking, as if they'd been scalded. But instead of retreating completely, they clawed toward her, more persistent than ever, their angry cries cutting through the air. "Come back, Mia. You can't fight this alone." Alex's voice cracked, pleading for her attention. Mia's thoughts spiraled. Must she confront this entity alone? She gritted her teeth and focused on the love that anchored her to Alex, envisioning that bond as an unbreakable rope pulling her forward. "Together," she screamed. With a flick of her wrist, the dagger hummed with energy. A mere flicker of light expanded into a blinding wave. The shadows pressed against it, furious and relentless, but that light pushed back with a roar, carving a path of clarity. Was it enough? The shadows wailed an anguished symphony as the dagger's light seared through them. Yet, in the flickering brilliance, Mia noticed something: tiny figures slinking in the edges of the light, grotesque, writhing bodies that twisted like marionettes. Were they beneath the shadows or part of them? "What are those?" she whispered, dread creeping into her thoughts. Whatever they weren't just a figment of her imagination. They were watching her, hungry eyes gleaming in the dim light. "There's more at stake than you know, Mia," the creature boomed, its voice rumbling like thunder. Every strike against the darkness awakened something deeper, something terrible. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet thudded violently, cracking as waves of energy rippled outward. She staggered, the dagger flickering with a life of its own, dimming and brightening, echoing the struggle within her. Shadows lunged to reclaim their territory, clawing at her ankles, holding her in place. "Mia, don't stop," Alex urged, his voice strained as the shadow's grip tightened around him too. She faced the shadows, determination igniting a fire within. "You can't have him." The words were sharp and true, echoing with a promise of protection. But something lurked below, waiting for her to falter. Day's shadows loomed, thickening and swirling. Mia gripped the hilt of the dagger, ready to either cut through or succumb to the malevolence closing in. What she didn't know was how deep the roots of the darkness reached, nor the true extent of the entity's power. Until she cracked the surface, could she wield the dagger to truly sever the bond? Or would it bind her to the horror that crawled just out of sight? The world around Mia was a battleground, shadows clashing violently against the radiant glow of the dagger. Each pulse surged through her, igniting her spirit amidst the dread that threatened to swallow her whole. "Fight it, Mia. We can win." Alex's voice trembled, the echo barely cutting through the tumult. Mia's grip tightened on the dagger. She could feel its power melding with her own, a fierce connection born of love and desperation. From deep within her, memories surged, flashbacks of laughter, joy, and the unbreakable bond shared with Alex. Together, she whispered fiercely, heart pounding with raw determination. "We can do this together." With every ounce of strength, she pressed forward, aiming the dagger at the swirling darkness. The shadows hissed and shrieked as the light spilled forth, pushing back the encroaching gloom. Suddenly, a deeper howl emanated from the darkness, chilling and furious. "You think you can defeat me with such fleeting hope?" Mia stumbled. Visions of the grotesque figures flickering behind the shadows invaded her mind. But she didn't waver. "Breathe. Focus." She merged her will with the dagger, focusing on the love and bravery within her heart. "You want to take him," she roared, driving the dagger into the forest floor as if to root herself to the light that radiated from it. Light exploded around her, the darkness curled inwards like a wounded beast. The shadows screamed, a chorus of fury and torment clawing at her senses. "You will pay for this," the creature shrieked, echoing with fury so profound it rumbled through the earth. "Not if I can help it," Mia shouted back. The ground trembled, shaking as if both light and dark wrestled for dominance. "We are bound." The creature's voice rang, a shrill reminder of the pact that hung heavily in the air. "One life for another. Name your sacrifice." Mia's heart thudded painfully in her chest. "Alex? No. I want to be your pawn," she yelled defiantly, a fresh wave of light enveloping her. "I choose to break the cycle." The dagger flared, infused with newfound power, sending waves of illumination crashing through the shadows. "Foolish girl. You cannot break the chain of darkness," the creature howled, shadows swirling as it writhed against the light. Mia felt it, the tether of her lineage clinging to her, but she wouldn't let it bind her. "I free us all," she yelled, plunging the dagger toward her ancestral curse, summoning the strength of every soul that had suffered before her. Suddenly, the ground heaved violently, fracturing the soil like nerves exposed. "Mia!" Alex shouted, his own brightness shimmering through the shadows, fighting against the dark. She reached for him, their hands almost touching, but the shadows lurched, narrowing the gap. "Let him go," she cried, rage erupting within her, each word dripping with diamond-sharp determination. "Release him." A blinding light erupted from the dagger, intertwining with Alex's presence. "Mia, we can do this," he shouted, the echo of their bond resonating between them. Together, the word exploded, shattering the very fabric of despair. As they shared that heartbeat, lights surged across the woods, swallowing the shadows in flame. The darkness howled, a sound that transcended fear, a sound laced with ancient pain and immeasurable loss. But as the light wrapped around Mia, she could feel the chains of the past shattering, unwinding into mere dust. "No," the creature wailed, retreating into the depths, its desperate grasp diminishing. "You cannot extinguish what has always been darkness lives on." But it was too late. Mia released the last ties, freeing the pain of generations buried in shadows. With a final thrust of the dagger, the dark expelled its hold. The woods erupted in brilliant light, and the shadows screeched, scattering like roaches in the presence of flame. "Mia?" Alex's voice broke through the fading darkness as he emerged, his form illuminated. She lunged at him, enveloping him in an embrace, their warmth weaving together as all the shadows fled. "You did it. We did it," he exclaimed, wide-eyed, relief washing over him. But as they stood there, the light dwindling into a gentle dusk, Mia felt the weight of the shadows lingering at the corners of her mind. "Are they truly gone?" she whispered. "For now," Alex replied, his voice softening. "But we will face them together if they return." As they stepped back hand in hand, the forest brightened with an ethereal light, and the air felt lighter, like the oppressive weight had finally lifted. They turned, the night retreating into dawn, ready to face whatever was next. "Thank you for believing in us," Mia said, her voice steady. "Always," Alex replied. With their past behind them, they stepped forward into the unknown, embraced tight, illuminated by hope and love. "Now, let us make sure this doesn't happen again," Mia chuckled, and together they walked towards the light of a new dawn, shaped not by fear, but by courage and the unbreakable bond they had forged. This marks the end of their harrowing tale. But remember, bravery can alter destinies, love can forge new paths, and sometimes the shadows just need a little light. And if you enjoyed this conclusion, don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next spine-tingling story. Smash that like button to help spread the word and feed the algorithm. I want to hear your reactions. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't forget to instantly share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans know the importance of keeping this community alive.